One of the biggest From questions that I get in the comments of my videos is who is Martin? Not only are there plenty of questions about Martin in the comments, but also a lot of theories, and you guys know I love seeing all your theories. So let's talk about it. From Season 3, spoilers ahead. So Martin is definitely a very tough character to try to theorize about because we haven't really gotten too much information yet about him. But there are some clues and facts that we can use to maybe get some kind of general idea, but mostly debunk a lot of the theories. Okay, so what do we know about Martin? We know that he was chained up in the dungeon similarly to how Julie, Randall, and Marielle were when they were captured by the music box / cicada Big Bad. We know that when Boyd meets him, he looks like he's been chained up for a very long time. The two other people chained up were skeletons, as if he was one of the three like Julie, Randall, and Marielle. He knows Abby's name and what she said to Boyd about needing to wake up, and he has a Marine's tattoo on his forearm. And of course he has the blood parasites that he gives to Boyd and then disappears. We then finally see him again when Julie is transported to the dungeon and throws the rope to Boyd. In this scene, he looks as he did when Boyd meets him, which of course makes sense, and then he knows Julie's name, and then he tells her she needs to get out of the dungeons because it's very dangerous. Okay, so first let's try and debunk some theories and talk about who or what he is not. Recently, there's been many theories that Martin is Randall since time travel has now been implemented into the show, and he was the male character chained up with Julie and Mari. People are wondering if Randall actually never left the dungeon because currently, in Season 3, he's been the most affected and still being haunted by the cicadas. People are theorizing that Martin knew Julie's name because he's actually the same Randall that Julie knows. People are also theorizing that Randall's facial scars are being covered by Martin's beard. Before I debunk this theory, let's also talk about another common theory, and that is that Martin is a grown Ethan. I think this is a theory because people really want Ethan to matter more, and of course because he knows Julie's name. The issues with Randall, Ethan, and any other character that we currently know for that matter is that he said his name is Martin. He has the Marine's tattoo, and he never disclosed himself to Boyd and Julie as someone they should know. Why would he say his name is Martin if it's Randall or Ethan or any other character that we currently know in this show? We also know that Randall and of course Ethan don't have a Marine's tattoo on their forearm. And lastly, if you use the logic that he must be someone Julie knows because he used her name, then that means he must also be someone who has met Abby since he used her name, which of course Randall and Ethan weren't in Fromville at the same time as her. If you rewatch when Boyd meets Martin, Martin asks if Boyd is from the town like he doesn't know him. Now that could technically have been Martin at first acting like he didn't know Boyd because he didn't want to freak him out or because he needed to have a real conversation with him before dropping creepy lines like, hey, by the way, I know who you are. But anyway, I'm fully out on Martin being any current character that we know from the story. Alright, so now that that is out of the way, who is he? Honestly, I don't think them explaining who he is will be any type of shocking reveal that we should have already guessed. Based on the facts that we have so far, it seems that Julie can time travel because she was someone who was captured and locked in the dungeon. This isn't fully confirmed because it could just be Julie specifically is special for some other reason, or that time is not linear in Fromville and there's certain areas of Fromville that allow certain people to enter different time periods that are technically all happening at the same time. But if we assume it's because she was chained in the dungeon, then we can also assume that Martin may have been one of the three that was captured previously in another time. For some reason, the other two passed away and wasted away, and Martin technically survived. Why he wouldn't have cloudy eyes and be screaming like Julie, Mari, and Randall were is anyone's guess. Is Martin's physical body actually somewhere in Fromville similar to how the other three were lying in beds while also being locked in the dungeon? At this point, his physical body would probably be wasted away, but you have to assume a physical body for him did exist while he was locked away. Could he be the body that Elgin found in the cellar? If Martin has become a time traveler somehow, like Julie has, that would explain how he's all-knowing and knows who Julie, Abby, etc. are. If we go back to Kenny's words to Christy when Mari is lying in bed in her trance, maybe we won't be the ones to get to go home, but maybe we can help the next people get home. This could mean that Martin has chosen to stay in the dungeon to fulfill his part in keeping Boyd alive after he goes to the faraway tree. There's a good chance that Martin is currently technically not alive in our timeline after he gives the parasite to Boyd, and his role has actually been fulfilled in the current timeline. But just like in this season, that doesn't mean we won't see him again in different layers of time. There's two different theories that I think are worth contemplating when it comes to Martin. Number one is that he's actually a future townsperson that we haven't met yet. It would be a pretty cool reveal to have someone show up in town and say that their name is Martin. If you're really hanging on to the fact that Martin didn't know who Boyd was, the writers could do something many people would be pissed about and decide to actually unalive Boyd. If Martin showed up in the town when Boyd had already passed away but Julie was still alive, it could make sense why he knew Julie's name but not Boyd. Again, the Abby line is an issue for this theory though. Number two is that he has no relation to any current or future characters and is purely a character that existed in the past but is part of the storyline now. A thread in the sweater, as Kenny would say. He somehow has become intertwined in the overarching story of the town and can time travel in ways to help the story progress as it should. He knew Boyd, Abby, and Julie because he has now seen all aspects of the story and the different paths it could take. Think Doctor Strange in the Avengers movies. I think it's more likely that Julie will go down a similar path as Martin, and they will meet again in another wrinkle in time within the story at some point. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and definitely send me your theories, and I'll break some of them down and shout them in my future videos.